Folks, this could very well be a good-natured hour first. My computer clock says 7:59, which means we're early. Um, I am so pleased to be able to turn this over in just a quick second to Valerie Blaine. Now, I know a lot of you who sign on our regular Tuesday night gig are members of our King County Certified Naturalist program, but some of you aren't. And I just wanted to give a little background. Valerie has been with us before. I forget, we've talked about it a number of different things, but Valerie was actually one of the founding partners of our KCCN uh, program, and she has gone off to her own endeavors now and is able to follow many pursuits, one of which she is going to share with you this evening, which is it fair to say, Valerie, a lifelong passion for pollinators and bumblebees?
Yes, but recently renewed, I guess.
That sounds good. Well, I don't want to take away, because now we're at our usual starting time of 8:01. I'm going to turn it over. And yeah, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
Great.
And welcome, most of all, to you, Valerie. So take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, hello, all of you good-natured folks out there in TV land. As you can see, I am not Pam Otto, even though the computer says I am. I am Valerie, as Pam said. I was delighted when Pam asked me to step in this evening because I get to talk about one of my favorite activities every spring, summer, and fall, and that is finding and observing bumblebees. So this evening, I'm going to present an overview of what's called the Illinois BeeSpotter program. I'm going to share some of the photographs that I've taken as part of that program, and we'll look at a handful or more of the native species that live around here, as the common ones, as well as some of the more uncommon ones. We'll see how really, really important bumblebees are for our ecology. A few things before we get started, though, a couple things for you to know. One is that the scientific name for bumblebee is bombus. So bombus means bumblebee, and that'll make sense in a minute here. And the second thing is that I welcome your comments and questions in the chat. So as I'm presenting, type away if thoughts pop into your mind or questions. At the end of this little PowerPoint, I'll take a look at the whatever's in the chat, and I'll do my very best to answer any questions, or at least to provide resources where you can find the answers to those questions. I'm on a big learning curve here with bumblebees. So it's definitely an exploration for all of us. So let's hope that the technology gods are in our favor this evening and that this goes without a hitch. Kind of new for me here. So we will dive in. I'm going to share my screen and we will look at a PowerPoint. So slideshow. Let's see. From the beginning. Okay. It's the Bombus. This is the program about the Illinois BeeSpotter program and bumblebees, or Bombus in general. So what is this BeeSpotter thing? BeeSpotter is a partnership between citizen scientists, volunteer monitors, and the professional science community. It's designed as an educational tool, which is really cool. So part of the goal is to educate the public about pollinators by getting them active in collecting data. It's also part of a nationwide effort to collect baseline information on the population status of bees. Let's take a look at some bee basics. Everybody seen a bee before? I imagine that you have seen a bee and that you kind of know what a bee is. But what is a bee? A bee is a member of a big order of insects called the Hymenoptera. And Hymenoptera means membrane wing. Hymenoptera comprises wasps, hornets, ants, and, of course, bees. There are about 4,000, give or take, species of bees that are native to North America, 400 to 500 native species of bees in Illinois. And this guy is a native species, and you'll see it doesn't really look like what you think of as bumblebee. There's a wide diversity of bees in our state. If you haven't already checked out the Field Museum's field guides, they're really good. And I've given a link here. This field guide is just some of the common genera of bees in Illinois. So definitely something good to check out. But you can see, wow, there's really a lot of different groups of bees. And these are just representative of the groups. Obviously not all 400 to 500 species. Well, how do you know a bumblebee then when you see one? First of all, you look for 4 wings, crooked antenna, a fuzzy body, pollen baskets, and a long tongue, and also they answer to the name bombus. So kind of like these. This one on the left that our friend Naturalist Josh Libman took this photo. This you can see 4 wings, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one on the right shows crooked antenna. See the antenna make that sharp angle there. Also very fuzzy body. By the way, all the photos were taken by me unless otherwise noted. And Josh did a fabulous job with that photo on the left there. All right, so these bumblebees look kind of like this. This big orange thing is the pollen basket that bumblebees have. This time of year, those pollen baskets are chock full. They can be whatever the color is of the pollen that they're collecting. And this guy out or gal on the right is showing a long tongue. So those very long tongues can go down into their flower of choice. This one's on some red clover, and it can get its tongue way down into that clover. So how about these guys? Bumblebees? Well, you can probably guess I threw these in to trick you here. These are not bumblebees, as much as they might look like it. The guy on the left, you'll notice very straight little antenna, and it only has 2 wings. Also, it's got these big bulgy eyes. That's a robber fly, one of the many insects that bumblebees. The bee on the right is a carpenter bee. Carpenter bees look an awful lot, and they act a lot like bumblebees, but you can see that they don't have an entirely fuzzy body. This abdomen is super shiny. In fact, it's reflective. It's so shiny, it's reflecting the wings there. So it's easy to be fooled by these lookalikes. Once you delve into it, you'll start to be able to tell which ones are truly bombus or bumblebees. So why do this bee monitoring? It's a quirky interest, or why, what's the purpose of this? Well, many species of bombus are in decline. Bumblebees that used to be pretty commonplace are disappearing. More than 1/4 of all North American bumblebees are facing some degree of extinction risk. And a diversity of bees indicates the quality of the habitat, and then lack of diversity is saying something as well. So by monitoring these bees, part of this Illinois BeeSpotter program or any other monitoring program really helps to track what's going on. With any of these citizen science programs, it's somewhat like taking vital signs. When you go to the doctor, they take your vitals, and any change in those vital signs provides information to the doctor about your health. Same thing with the species that we monitor. How does BeeSpotter work? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because there's a really good website, beespotter.com.org. You can just Google Illinois BeeSpotter. And this is managed by the University of Illinois, the entomology department there. I'm not going to go into all the specifics about this website. Very user-friendly website. You can see the tabs at the top. If you are interested in delving into this more, maybe becoming a BeeSpotter, I'd be happy to go through it with you, talk about how to create an account and all that jazz. But for now, the BeeSpotter website is just a really good resource for the program. And you might think, well, what do I need to monitor bees? Well, you need a camera and you need a computer with access to the internet, which you all have because you're here tonight. You need a desire to poke around prairies and do a lot of rambling on summer days. And you need some ID sheets, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. Camera. Well, you might think, oh, I don't have a fancy camera. I don't have a lot of camera skills. Well, neither do I. I bought a Canon Rebel TI5, whatever. It looks fancier than it is. Basically, I got this camera because my eyes are so bad. I needed this zoom lens so I can see things. Camera has better eyes than I do. But you can also use a smartphone. Some people have really good luck with their phones taking great pictures, whether it's an Android or an iPhone. My phone's not so great, but you don't have to go out and buy a camera if you've got a good smartphone camera. The ID sheets that I refer to are these, and they're on the BeeSpotter website. You can also pull these up just by a Google search. And if you look at these, it kind of looks like an eye test at the optometrist. So if you thought all bumblebees were the same, get a load of this. There are subtle differences between all these species. So and I know this is kind of small on your screen, but bear with me here. The bumblebees can be grouped by the patterns of their colors. And much of the patterning is going to be on the thorax, which is this middle part, and on their abdomen. So different segments of their abdomen, if they're colored yellow, reddish, rusty, or black, and then the way in which they're patterned is going to give you an indication of what the species is. So, and this is a short list of bumblebees. But it's really cool once you start to recognize these differences. And what also helps if you're going to do bee spotting is patience and cooperative bees. When I mention cooperative bees, it's because to get good photographs, they need to really have their wings spread apart. And very often they don't open their wings for you. And I need to back up a step. This program, the BeeSpotter program, is based on taking photographs, not collecting the bees. Since bumbles are in decline overall, they don't want people collecting them with nets and injuring them. So this is all by camera. And so what you want to get in your photo are those key characteristics of the stripes on the abdomen and the pattern on their head. So they often don't cooperate, and you often have to take a lot of pictures before they will open their wings or give you some kind of view. This is a little bit better because you can see a little bit of the patterning, but this is best when they've got their wings wide open. An important thing to note is photos do not have to be artistic. This is a pretty crummy photo, but it does the job for identifying the bee. It shows the characteristics. It's for some people, they just want to make sure they get a really good shot. My goal is just click away and hope that the key characteristics are going to show up, and then I get treated once in a while to a really good artistic shot. But the goal is just to get the picture that will identify the bee. Sometimes you'll need to see their face. Usually you can identify them just by looking at the thorax and the abdomen. But when it gets, some species are kind of close, and then it helps to look at their face. Some of the characteristics would be this little tuft of hair on the top, whether that's black or yellow. And some of them even have like little mustaches and things like that. So these are some of the bees that I've bumbled upon. A quick who's who in the Bombas land of northern Illinois. Some I've also done some bee spotting in east central Illinois. So we'll just take a look at some of them. The bee that you see the most is the common eastern bumblebee, and its scientific name is Bombas impatiens. I have no idea why it got the name impatiens. You do see it on the plant that's called impatiens. It's a pretty much of a generalist as far as the flowers that it will go to. And you can spot this guy, the impatiens, because only that first abdominal segment has the yellow. There are some differences between queens, workers, and males. I'm not going to go into all that amount of detail. Actually, I don't even know that amount of detail. That's why those reference sheets I've always got on hand. So Bombas impatiens, you'll start seeing these in early spring. This photo on the left, by the way, was taken in my woods. And this lovely plant you might recognize. Anybody know what that is? It's Creeping Charlie. I had lots and lots of queen Bombas impatiens in the spring visiting the Creeping Charlie. Well, Creeping Charlie is not a native plant. And it's always better to have native plants. Native bees will use whatever is available. And whether the Creeping Charlie is actually providing the nutrition they need I don't know. I would way rather that they have more of the Dutchman's breeches and things like that, because those for sure have the right nutrients for them. But lots of queens were in my woods on the Creeping Charlie. I think this was a warm day in April. The photo in the middle I took just yesterday. There's an awesome plant that just appeared in my woods that's called, well, let's see, it's Pernanthes alba. I think it's wild white lettuce. Pernanthes alba is the scientific name, and it's got these beautiful dangling flowers. And, check out the stigmas on this thing. And the bees hang upside down, put their long tongue all the way down in there to get their nectar reward, and then get dusted with pollen. So that's the common eastern bumblebee. A beautiful bee in our area is the black and gold bumblebee, Bombus oricomus. Um, these can be pretty big, although size is more a reflection of the health of the colony. But boy, some of these, our friend at KCCN or Cindy Martinovic was laughing that they were seemed as big as hummingbirds this year. Must mean that their colony's very healthy. This one shows that pocket, and the black and gold that's a good name for it because it's got very striking black and gold markings. Now, out at Cindy's Prairie, I was doing some bee spotting with a couple other people, and we noticed there was this black and gold bumblebee that was really still. And I thought, oh, good, I'm going to be able to get a good picture of it because, it wasn't moving or anything, but it wouldn't open its wings. And I got closer and closer. That thing didn't budge. Well, I got close enough. And here's the reason it wasn't budging. It was being eaten alive by an ambush bug, this thing right here. It was just sucking the guts out of that bee as I was photographing it. So that's why it wasn't going to open its wings. That stuff happens, it's a dog eat dog world out there in Wild Kingdom. I noticed a bumble when I was just walking in Leroy Oaks one day, and I thought, oh, that bee's acting funny. I looked closer. It was being eaten by a mantid. So, yeah, kind of gruesome. Another bee that you'll find in Kane County and surrounding areas is the two-spotted bumblebee, Bombus bimaculatus. It likes a variety of flowers, seems to like blue a lot. That could be true of many Bombus. Monarda or bee balm is a guaranteed win as far as watching bumblebees. Any patch of Monarda will yield some kind of bumblebee. It's got very desirable nectar, and the bees have to spend a lot of time to get that nectar reward. They work each flower. So on the left here is a close-up of a two-spotted eating from or eating the nectar out of Monarda. So if you picture Monarda, if you've seen Monarda, it's got this whole like head of individual flowers. A bumblebee can spend a lot of time going from flower to flower to flower. So that's really cool if you want to be able to observe bumblebees. Then there's the yellow bumblebee, really a pretty bee, Bombus fervidus. And the photo on the left shows an early summer fervidus because the spiderwort's an early plant. Sometimes you can't get very close to them. That's why I like that zoom lens, but I was able to get pretty close to this one in the photo on the right. All of these abdominal segments are that really like pretty lemon yellow color. Then there's the brown belted bumblebee. This one, people want to make it into another bee, which we'll show in a little bit. You may have heard of the rusty patch bumblebee. That is an endangered species, and it's the holy grail of bee watchers. Every find a rusty patch. Well, they're endangered, so it's not likely that you'll see them. The brown belted does have what can seem like a little rusty patch on the second abdominal segment. The little trick I learned was that if it's brown on black, put him back. Brown on yellow, he's your fellow. Kind of dumb, but whatever works to help you remember it. So this is brown on black. So that just means it's not going to be the rusty patch. And this photo doesn't show the rustiness as brightly as on some other bees. Um, and sometimes, as the photo on the right shows, looking at the characteristics on the face can be helpful too. Um, whether it has yellow right above the eyes and then a little mustache. So this one you can see has a little bit of yellow. I believe the rusty patch has black, I think. This was a really quality find. The American bumblebee, Bombus pennsylvanica, is in steep decline, and ecologists are not sure why, other than the usual habitat decline. Um, but it used to be very common and now not common at all. The one on the left I found at Bowes Creek Forest Preserve, and the one on the right was at Leroy Oaks. And they're very striking bees. And this is one that you sort of have to have the face to clinch it. So Bombus pennsylvanica. Now, I should say that when you submit these to BeeSpotter, somebody at the other end at the U of I goes through all of these photos, all the submissions, and they will verify if you've identified it correctly. And if you haven't, they will tell you what it is. One thing I love about this program is that it is educational, and they're very helpful. So if you submit something and you think it's Bombus pennsylvanica, and let's say it's not, instead of just telling you were wrong, they give you helpful little hints and will give you a link to a profile of that bee so that you can learn and maybe next time, identify it correctly. One time I wasn't sure of what a particular bee was, and it was that robber fly. I was very new and did not see that it was a fly. And the person from the U of I responded, "Great find. That's a such and such robber fly, not a bee at all. But cool photo." So that was very nice. Didn't make me feel stupid or anything like that. And I have misidentified a few Bombus pennsylvanica. All the ones that I'm showing you tonight have been verified. The half black bumblebee is a fun one. Bombus vagans. This one kind of, if you look at the photo on the right, it kind of looks like a punk rocker or something. It's got long hair that just sticks every which way, and it's kind of a cute. It's a smaller bumblebee, and the photo on the left, again, not a great photo artistically, but it showed what characteristics needed to be seen to identify it. Bombus citrinus is one of the cuckoo bumblebees. This is the lemon cuckoo bumblebee. And this is a solitary bee. There are two species of cuckoo bumblebees in our area, and they're solitary. All the other ones are gregarious and have broods of small colonies, but these cuckoo bumblebees are brood parasites of other bumblebees, which just means they don't build their own nest. They put their eggs in a nest that another bee has made. So this lemon cuckoo bumblebee, I think this one likes to parasitize the Bombus or Oricomis, I think. There's a variable cuckoo bumblebee, which I think I saw at Otter Creek Bend. It hasn't been verified yet. And that one prefers the American bumblebee, the Bombus pennsylvanica. So that one kind of you'll find that where you find Bombus pennsylvanica. So interesting interactions between them. This was a very fun find, the red-belted bumblebee. This year, first time I've found Bombus rufosinctus twice. So Pam and I were on a walk, really looking for snakes at Otter Creek Bend a week or so ago. And, Pam's got quite the eye for snakes, and I keep looking for bumblebees because I can't help it. And here was this really different looking bumblebee. It's got, if you look at the picture on the top left, it's got this really bright reddish rusty color. So two segments of yellow and then these abdominal segments of rusty. And that's a bee that is not at all common around here. In fact, it's not common in Illinois at all. So here it was at Otter Creek Bend. Got some good photos of it. And then I was out at Cindy Martinovic's prairie and found another one. So very fun to find something new this year. Now, here is the rusty patch bumblebee. And I did not take this photo. It was taken by, I think, some of the staff at the Forest Preserve District. They found a rusty patch. This is a queen at Freeman Cave Forest Preserve a few years ago, several years ago. And you can see this one doesn't really even have a rusty patch. So there's other things you have to look for. Sometimes it's the queens will have some different characteristics than the workers or the males. But this was an official bee survey and they found the queen. So that's great news. It means very good habitat. Now, you might be wondering, what about honeybees? Well, honeybees are non-native. They were brought to what's now the state of Virginia in 1622. By 1776, they had made their way to Illinois, and by 1853, they were established in California. They've become very important pollinators, super critical for agriculture, but they are different altogether from these native bees that we're talking about. The honeybees are considered domesticated cultural creatures. Some of them can be aggressive and act kind of invasive, and often outcompete our native species of pollinators. I love honey. I know some of you may be beekeepers, and that I'm not putting that down at all. The fact is that honeybees can have some negative effects on our native bees. Bumblebees are very docile. They may be big, but they're docile. And I've watched when I'm bee spotting, honeybees just body slam bumbles on a flower and just push them right off. And the photo on the right shows a honeybee that just pushed a monarch off a flower. They're the new kids on the block, and they can be kind of like bullies. So just something to know. I bee spot, I like to go to Coron Farm, which is Campton Township's restored prairie over on Coron Road. I used to get a good diversity of bombus species there, but the last few years it's been almost all honeybees. So I suspect that somebody's got supers. They're somebody's beekeeping near there, and the number of bumbles has gone down as the number of honeybees has gone up. Kind of a concern. Now, just some fun stuff I thought I'd throw in there. This is the season that different species of gentian are in bloom. If you walk in a prairie, you're likely to see cream gentian, which this white flower is. There's also bottle gentians that are in bloom. Gentians hold an irresistible nectar treat for a lot of pollinators. Their flowers, especially early on, are closed, and bumblebees are one of the few species that can actually force those petals open. And so I snapped a bunch of pictures up at the Martinovic's Prairie. Um, this is Bombus oricomis, I believe, and it was easily opened up the petals on this closed cream gentian. And I should mention a few other insects had come along and tried, but they didn't have the tools to open it. So here's this bumble. It just opens up that flower and crawls right in. And when it's inside, I timed it, and it can take like 20 seconds of bumbling around in that gentian flower, just reveling in the nectar in there. Of course, while it's doing that, it's getting coated with pollen. And then this guy crawled out. Look at the shape he's in. He looks like he's in a drunken stupor after a night of partying. It was the same bee that we saw earlier on that looked, looked all together and nice and groomed and whatever. And then it comes out, and this is what it looked like. So kind of funny. I mean, it does have pollen all over it, but its hair is all matted and whatever. Very fun to watch. So if you go to a prairie this week, see gentians, and just you have to be patient. Just watch there. If you see one of the flowers kind of jiggling with something dark inside, then it's most likely there's a bumble in there doing its thing. So in conclusion, native bees are really cool. There's a lot of different kind of native bees. Bumblebees are one group that just really have captured my imagination, but they're in decline. Habitat loss, pesticide use, you name it. They've had taken a lot of hits. So many species are in decline. The bee spotting program is a fun way to discover native bees and also to help ecologists in the process. So if you're at all interested, maybe for next summer, I'd be happy to help you get started or give you some clues. But it's once you start looking at bumblebees, you'll be hooked. You'll be watching for them everywhere. And that's not such a bad thing. So that's what I have for the official PowerPoint. Let me see if I've got anything in the chat. Okay, Melissa asked, what are the common local bee for beekeepers in this area to provide honey? Well, the European honeybees are really the only ones that can provide honey in a big enough quantity that we could harvest it. So yes, the native bees will, and native bumblebees provide a type of a honey for their young, but not at all in any kind of quantity that we could harvest. Bob says, I've heard of the need to feed, especially in early spring. Is there ever a need to support a supplement bumblebees? Excellent question, Bob. I think the need is to provide native plants. Native plants for native bees. And in that vein, if you can provide something that's blooming from spring to fall so that they have food throughout the year, early spring natives that bumblebees like, Dutchman's breeches is a great one. Gooseberry is another one. Those are, those will get those early queens nourished while they're establishing their colony. And then throughout the summer, of course, the Monarda is always a hit with the bumbles. And then on through the fall, like right now, the gentians, and they will be going for some of the asters and stuff. So that's the best support or supplement. Sarah, how often do bee spotters go out? As often as you want. The BeeSpotter program is not as rigorous as some of the other monitoring programs. And that's one thing that I like about it. If it's a nice day and you want to go out with your camera in a prairie or a woodland, you can go spot bees. The protocol is not real strict that says you have to go once a week or you have to go to this spot or whatever. So whenever you want to explore nearby nature. Maureen, how many different kinds of native bumbles do you commonly see when you go out? Do you see different kinds at the same outing, or do different kinds live in different places in our county? As to the first part, how many different kinds do I usually see, really depends on the site. I use Coron Farm as an example. I used to get a good diversity there. Now, not so much. So something has changed, even though they're doing a great job with restoration there. But the bees are saying that something has kind of changed for them. Other times I'll go out and it's just like a feast. I'll see like 4 or 5 different species in one outing. So that depends on the site. Do you see different kinds at the same outing? Yes. You can see different ones in one place. They all have a slightly different niche, slightly different flowers that they like, and different feeding habits and stuff. So you can see different kinds at the same place, but also different habitats will be better for certain species, another habitat better for others. Susie, can you see diverse bumbles in your city yard? Yes, you can. And that will depend on the plants that are around. So if there's a city pollinator garden, you can likely see numerous species of bumbles, like in downtown St. Charles. A lot of the garden clubs have, like to put in pollinator gardens, and that's awesome because different native plants will attract bumblebees.
It looks like there was a question from Michelle about your earrings.
Oh,
and she remembers how you used to wear themed earrings.
Oh, yes. Yes. These, you know what? I have no bumblebee earrings. So I'm sorry to disappoint. These were just pretty earrings that my daughter-in-law gave me. I guess I need to fix something about that. I guess I need to start looking for bumblebee earrings. Yeah. So you may, I imagine that some of you do some type of monitoring. There's this citizen science that we talk about is just basically folks like us that are interested in watching a certain part of nature and keeping tabs on it in different ways. There are a whole bunch of these citizen science kinds of programs. There's butterfly monitoring, dragonfly monitoring, singing insects, a variety of different things. Any of these programs, frog monitoring is a big one. Any of these programs has the side benefit of it gets you outside a lot with a purpose, but there's all this serendipitous stuff that happens. When shooting bumbles, I have found ambush bugs and cool spiders and all this other stuff that if I hadn't been looking for bumbles, chances are I would have passed it right by. So that's, to me, that's part of the reward of doing this. Well, that's all I have for this evening. If there are any other questions, going once, going twice, you can shoot Pam or me an email if you think of something later. Oh, data sheets. Good question, Diane. The BeeSpotter program it's all online, so you don't really have data sheets, but you click on one of the tabs that says submit spotting, and it walks you through different that you have to title your photograph, you have to indicate the date, and then the location, which is you put a pin on a map for the location, and then you submit some photos for that sighting, and your best guess as to the ID. So that there's no sheets per se, but it's on the website. That being said, there are more rigorous bee monitoring programs. The Xerxes website, I don't know, Pam, if you've talked about Xerxes before, it's a great website about insects in general, but they have a bee monitoring program that requires a little more info with data sheets that record whether it's overcast or not, temperature, precipitation, yada, yada. I'm going to probably give that a try in addition to BeeSpotter next year. Do you submit the data per visit or per bee? It's per bee. So if you went out and you didn't see any bumbles, there's nothing you really have to report, at least in the Illinois BeeSpotter program. Sometimes you find so many bumbles, there's just a point at which you have to say, okay, I've recorded enough for today because you can't shoot every single bombus impatiens that you see in this program. So this program is not necessarily looking for abundance, it's more looking for diversity. All right, well, get out there and just enjoy bumblebees. There's another month or so left for them this year. The new mated queens will be overwintering. So right now, there have been males produced specifically to mate with newly produced queens, and everybody else is going to die off, but those mated queens are going to find a good spot to overwinter, and we won't see them again until first warm day in April. All right, well, Pam, thank you so much for having me tonight.
Valerie, I can't thank you enough. I missed a little bit there, but this was so enlightening. And as Zoom is so good to remind us this is being recorded. So if there's anything anybody wants to go back and review, we'll have this uploaded onto the Good Natured YouTube channel, which is impossible to find, but if you want to, just let me know.
Yeah.
We have, I think we're up to 300 subscribers now,
Oh,
which
awesome.
is like,
Great.
a fraction of what the easy to find channels are. But yeah, I
Very good.
cannot thank you enough. And it really is fun, guys. As Valerie mentioned, we were out at Otter Creek Bend a week or two ago, and I was just amazed at the ease at which you have your camera, you've got your tripod, and while I was still trying to get my cell phone camera, it was supposed to be the easiest way to take a picture. I had barely gotten out of my pocket, and you had this whole smooth motion and click, 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 click. You've got a dozen photos of the Rufus Cinctus, or the cuckoo bee that we saw, the
They're not all
American
good
bumble.
photos. It's not like they're good photos, but yeah, since
Quantity,
we
quantity, whatever, quality.
right. I was surprised nobody asked about bee stings. I forgot to mention, bees are so docile. You'd have to work really hard to get one to sting you. So somebody asked me that elsewhere, and I was like, that's an odd question. I never thought they just aren't gonna be, they're more interested in that flower. So you photograph them and they're cool. So,
Well, Valerie, thanks again.
all right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to me uh go on and on about bumbles. Um and got anything planned for next week, Pam, or is that'll be whatever your muse
Whatever you
tells
wherever
you.
we've got a few things that I didn't that I kind of had in the hopper for whenever. So uh, when we do reconvene next week, I've got some emails of some uh, insects that have been spotted in the area, a true bug that is kind of interesting that I've been doing a little reading up on. It looks a lot like a Western conifer seed bug or even a squash bug, but it seems to be a completely different species.
Oh,
Doesn't have a common name. So I wanted to share a little bit about figuring that out, and got some pictures that were texted to me that were described as grisly. So we might try to
ooh,
do a little postmortem there to figure out what
yeah,
the action was on the trail from that reader. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what else comes along. But
yeah.
I know last week I had said that we would have our September dates posted. I just remembered to ask marketing to do that today. So those should be up within the next day or two for those of you who like to sign up in advance. Those should be up on the website. And if you have trouble finding it, just let me know. I have trouble finding it too, but I have access to help, and we could get those dates uh, emailed to you, or get the link emailed to you, so it's easier to find.
All right.
Oh, we got one more, Wallace.
Ooh, yellow jackets.
Uh,
Huge underground colony. It kind of depends on where it is. If it's near your house, Pam, I'm gonna toss this to you. If it's way out in the woods where you're not likely to get in their way, I'd say leave it alone. But if it's near your house, that can be a problem.
well, Valerie, you had some along your driveway, right? That got taken care of in a very natural way. I
Yeah, after I got stung, but yeah. Actually, twice I've had them right near my house, and they twice were dug up and completely eaten. The whole colony of yellow jackets eaten by what I imagine was a skunk. Solved the problem. I had tried all of these other non-chemical ways to get rid of them, like flooding them out, putting a glass bowl over the entrance. All it did was irritate the heck out of them. But in each case, in each different house that this happened, one morning I go out and there's a hole in the ground where the yellow jacket colony had been, and slight scent of skunk. So skunks did the job for me, dug them up, ate them all. That's the best you can hope for as far as not using chemicals.
Yeah, and I'll echo that too, Valerie. I've had them here in my yard, and um the dogs learn quickly to leave them alone.
Mhm.
And then I just learned to avoid that part of the yard. And
Yeah.
the upside, everybody always focuses on the stinging end of the wasp, but the feeding end of the wasp is super helpful. They gather a lot of insects that they feed to their growing
Mhm.
larvae, and so they can be handy to have around. I know there's some around here somewhere because I see them drinking at the bird bath here. I haven't
Yeah.
located the nest yet. And it might be
Yeah.
towards it might be in somebody else's yard for all I know. But
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to not have to take any action because they weren't in a high traffic area.
Yeah, that's the key. And so, Wallace, I see that you said it's in an orchard. So if it's not in the path of your everyday, it's not on your way out to the mailbox or something, then yeah,
Good,
just
yeah. If you've got skunks and you've got, it sounds like you're all set. Well, let's just wait for the fun to happen.
yeah, yeah,
For the skunks.
right, right. Um, all right.
Thank
Well,
you.
now it looks like we're towards the end.
Okay, folks. Well, great to see you, and at least I just see your names, but maybe we'll see you out on the trail sometime.
Thanks, Valerie.
All
Thanks,
right.
Valerie.
Thank you both. Good night.
Bye,
Rita
everyone.
Bombas.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Pam.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.